of the vowels that we see in English, and that we'll be learning the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA, symbols for. And you can see here, these are sort of extra slides, so I generally don't cover this directly in class, but for the purposes of this podcast, it might be helpful just to have someone sort of gently walk you through the symbols that correspond to the specific vowel sounds that we'll be using a lot in the class. So, for example, here we have this I is the E sound, so like sheep and sleep. And the capital I is the I sound, so it's sort of the laxer sound, ship and slip. So E versus I, right? And then we have here, we have the E symbol, which is the A sound, like laid and spade and trade, versus the softer right, the laxer which is led and sped and tread. And something I should mention is, why am I showing this to you in this particular shape? This actually is meant to mimic the part of your mouth where these things are occurring in. I should have said this first. So up here we have the front of the mouth versus the back of the mouth, and this is the height at which your tongue is, right? So for E and I, your tongue is pretty high, and it's middle of the space for A and E, but both of these are front sounds where the action to make that vowel is happening in the front of the mouth. Now down here we have A, which is very low, right, but still in the front. So bat and let, it's this funny sort of A-E symbol kind of glommed together. And then we have in the back now, the U is the oo sound, like in Luke and Hood and Suit. So E is our front, oo is our back, right? But they're both high up, sort of, so to speak, what your tongue's doing. Versus the softer, the laxer, which looks kind of like this very fancy Greek U. Look and Hood and Soot, right? The sound. And then we have at the mid-level in the back, the O, like in coat and wrote and hoed, versus the laxer aw sound. Not everybody has this in their dialect of English, but many do, and if you do have it, it sounds like this aw sound, like caught and wrought and hawed, right? You may not have this if in your dialect of English, and that's fine, but if you do, this is what it looks like, this aw sound. And then down at the, we also have sort of the laxer sort of sound, which looks like an upside down V. So cut and rut and hut is the sound versus the aw sound of that upside down C. And then we have the ah sound, which is why it's made in the back of the throat and really compresses the tongue down. Ah, it's why they tell you to stick out your tongue and say ah when you go to the doctor, because it really pushes that tongue down. This is the ah of ba, father, and cot and dawn, right? The ah sound. Now, there's another vowel, which is this upside down E in IPA, which is called the schwa. And it's sort of the nothing sound. It's like when you just don't want to move your tongue, you don't want to move it forward, you don't want to move it backwards, you don't want to move it high, you don't want to move it low. Maybe because you don't have a lot of time to make this sound, you end up making this sort of sound, right? So it's like this sound in metallic, right? It's like your tongue doesn't even have enough space to move, so it's just right in the middle. You just sort of leave it there and you get this out, metallic, right? And then Texas, the second part, the xus part, right? It's sort of the nothing sound, right? The lazy man's vowel. And so this schwa generally shows up then in English in unstressed syllables where there is an emphasis. So metallic, the stress is on the ah part, right? So this is a little unstressed syllable, and it ends up making that schwa sound. The same thing with Texas. So Texas, right? The stress is on that first syllable, so that second syllable is unstressed, doesn't have a lot of emphasis, and that sound, which we write as A, is really the schwa sound.